everyone, and welcome to our show, Meet the Makers Talent Acquisition Edition. We're so excited to have you joining us today. Well, I would like to give a very warm welcome to our host for today, Emily. So I will let her introduce herself.
Hello, everyone. As Leah mentioned, my name is Emily. Everyone calls me Em, and I work in the talent acquisition team here at Canva. So we are extremely lucky to have so many wonderful people work for Canva. And the best part of our job in TA is that we get to find all those people who become Canvanauts. So today I will be turning the tables on one of our own, Jack, who I work alongside in TA, and we will be interviewing him about his role at Canva, his journey into talent acquisition, and some insights from the industry as well. So Jack and I will hopefully share some wisdom today around the world of TA and what it's like to work at Canva. And please feel free to pop in your questions in the Q&A and we can run through your questions at the end. So I'm going to hand it over to the wonderful Jack. And we've got a little bit of a snippet about Jack, a video coming up, and then I will introduce him from there.
Hey, my name's Jack. I work on the TA team at Canva. I've been at Canva for about 9 months and I work across the creative and design recruitment team. My favourite place to travel in the world would be Croatia. I used to go every summer with my mates. It's a gorgeous country, amazing beaches and very good food. My hidden talent, so I am super passionate about music, and in my spare time I DJ. I used to DJ club nights and boat parties, but I value my sleep too much these days, so I don't really do that anymore. The one thing that I could do for the rest of my life would be to cook. I absolutely love cooking. I find it very relaxing and nice creative pastime, and yeah, big into my cooking utensils. If you're interested in woks or kitchen knives, let me know because I could talk about it for days. By day, you'll see me reviewing designers' portfolios and talking to candidates and to Canva. By night, you will see me trying to annoy my dog.
Sit.
Welcome, Jack. Thank you for joining us today.
Thanks so much, Em. Happy to be here. It's always a bit of a strange one watching yourself on videos like that, but yeah, thanks for having me.
No worries. So to kick us off today, Jack, would love to know, what did you study?
Sure. So I studied television production. So the plan for me was always to be a TV producer or a director or a cameraman. And yeah, always wanted to be within the creative realm, and sort of started my career in creative and then pivoted into recruitment.
And on that, because obviously you didn't study in TA, how did you end up working in talent acquisition? Really keen to hear your journey.
I think anyone that you speak to that works in recruitment or TA all probably have the thing in common that they probably never, thought at school, I want to be a recruiter. Like mine was be a Chelsea football player or be an astronaut, and neither of those things were on the horizon. So yeah, I went into creative production. Ended up going for a chat at a recruitment agency to try and find work through them. The conversation then turned into, would I be interested to work in creative recruitment and design, and sort of fell into it through having experience in the industry that I was recruiting for, and then sort of picking up the recruitment side of it.
Yeah, I love it. I've heard so many people that I've worked with over the years who have said the same thing. They go to interview for a job in their field and then they end up getting recruited to be a recruiter. It's like classic agency recruitment tactics there.
Yeah, I feel
like people.
Recruitment's one of those things that, you can teach people and upskill them around. But if they're, really know their area inside out, it does help in terms of, especially with something as specific as design and creative.
I think I am one of the weird ones who actively sort out recruitment. I think I'm in that sense that
you're the person in the world who actually did that.
One of the only ones that was like, yes, I'll do that. So what have been your biggest lessons along the way that you've had in your career?
In recruitment, it would 100% be two things for me. It's about being resilient and being really organized. I think within the recruitment industry, there's a huge amount of things that you can control, but there's also a number of things that you can't control. It's being able to, focus on those things that you can control, and really, if someone that you're working with gets through to final and they decide, to go for another offer, you can only do so much to try and convince them. And we would never push someone to take a job. So for me, it's, being able to control everything that you can, giving them the best experience, but then, being really respectful of people's decisions and knowing that it's not a personal reflection of you. It's, at the end of the day, it's these people's careers. So we definitely want to give people all the information and control what we can control. But, being resilient when people don't take a role is obviously a big thing. Being organized as well, like recruitment's massively about process, organization, dealing with calendars, dealing with, all these bits in the background as well, that it's super important that, you focus on doing the basics well and then building from that. So that'd probably be the main two for me. What about you, Em?
Yeah, totally. I agree with that. I remember in my first recruitment job, my manager at the time said to me, people are the hardest product to control and sell. And I feel like that has always stuck with me, in that there is, at the end of the day, you have to honor what the person wants to do and how they feel, and you need to make them feel the most comfortable as well. But I think from that, you just need to be resilient, because I think we can both agree that things don't always go to plan in our roles. So it's pushing through. But I love what you said about learning the basics and making sure that you have those down packed first, because that makes you a great recruiter. If you do the basics well and you stick to that and you know your process, everything will always fall into place from there. Now, tell us, how did you end up at Canva?
I have always admired Canva as a business, especially like its values, how much good Canva puts into the world, but also as someone who loves design and loves creative, having that at the core of the business is really appealing. And it's one of those things that, we're in a pretty unique place at Canva in terms of how much we've grown, but also what the product does itself. So it's a really interesting company. And for me, I always admired it. And I think when the opportunity came up to interview at Canva, it was really exciting. And basically, sort of made the decision that it was the right time for me to move into the business. And I've been here 9-10 months now, feeling very much part of the furniture, which is a good thing, trying to sort of immerse myself in the Canva world.
Yeah. 1 year at Canva is like 5 years. We all learn in our first week. So it feels like you've been here forever. And for those who don't know, we have a buddy program at Canva. So when Jack started, I was his buddy. So we have been working through that program from day one. So definitely one of my besties at Canva, Jack, for sure. So speaking of our roles, tell us a bit more about what you do on a day-to-day.
Yeah, sure. So there's predominantly two teams that I work across. So I work across brand creative team at Canva and the visual content team at Canva. The brand creative team are essentially the team that are behind Canva's brand and marketing vision in terms of from a creative and design standpoint. Their mission is to make Canva the most loved brand in the world, which is obviously a pretty big goal that we're trying to achieve, but we're sort of working back from that and scaling the team up to be able to do all these incredible sort of design campaigns and marketing campaigns. And they work across social partnerships. Essentially every touch point for Canva, both externally and internally, are designed by our brand creative teams. They're almost like a internal branding creative agency within Canva. And the visual content team are the people that do all the assets that go into Canva from a design perspective. So every time you open Canva and there's a new set of templates or some new illustrations or photography, that's all produced and made by our internal visual content team. So I hire across those teams. Anything that's within the creative and design realm sits under me. So a big thing for me is, partnering with hiring managers, doing lots of, market understanding on what we're looking for, and then taking that right through into, hiring processes and getting people on the ground. So it's a really interesting role. There's like super diverse talent pools that I'm working across. Like some days I could be looking for executive producers in the States, to the next day looking for sort of graduate designers in Sydney. So it's a really sort of wide mixing role in terms of the candidates that I work with.
Yeah, brilliant. That team seems to have grown quite a lot this year. How big is the team size now?
So within the visual content team, I think there's about 150 within that team globally, the majority being Sydney based and Manila based, but we've got designers in America, South America, South Africa. There's a huge amount of designers globally. Also the brand creative team as well. They're doubling every year. So there's a decent size of people in that team as well. But yeah, big focus for us is obviously, how do we continue to grow, but keep the values really aligned to what we're doing at Canva, and also keep the quality of candidates really high.
I love how much like the wider marketing org at Canva has grown over the last couple of years. Like only, from not quite 3 years ago, we had a very lean team. We now have over 300 people globally. So
yeah,
it's been so amazing to watch that grow. And I'm sure it will continue to grow tremendously next year as well. So talking about Canva, what is it like to be part of such a fast-paced company like Canva?
It's pretty wild. Canva's an amazing company. It's super rewarding. But obviously, the scale at which we're growing, we've grown from 900 people at the start of the year to almost 2,500 in the space of 12 months. So I guess we talk a lot about chaos to clarity at Canva. And obviously, in companies that are growing so quickly on that hyper growth phase, it's how do we, keep things clear and keep process moving and try and, foresee any issues coming up and try and rectify them before they happen. So in terms of like our growth, we're in a pretty unique place and globally as how quick we've grown. That is, heavily part of our goal as a recruitment team is how do we scale effectively and how do we maintain quality? So it's a lot of work, but it's really rewarding. And seeing the excitement of people's faces to be joining Canva. We recently, Em and I worked across grad schemes for our respective areas, and the excitement and positivity that comes from the grads when we're offering them roles is amazing. And also just the excitement to be interviewing with Canva is great. But when I say it's wild, I was pulling some stats before this, and so far this year we've had 280,000 applications. So and it's on us to get back to people. And if people have applied for roles, we aim to get back to everyone within a certain amount of time. And it's all about how do we do that at scale, and how do we keep doubling a company that's already pretty well established.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, our team's grown tremendously this year as well. I think we've got over 60 people globally in TA now, and that's more than doubled in size in the last 12 months. So to hit our crazy big goals of the amount of Canvanauts we'd like, obviously, there's a lot of resource that needs to happen in TA team, but I can't believe how many applications we've had. Do you say 280,000?
Yeah, 280,000 this year to date, globally. Wow. For roles. So obviously, it's a massive compliment to Canva to get that many applications, and it sort of comes down to, how we operate as a business, but it's also dealing with that sort of scale of applications is a bit of a head scratcher by itself.
Yeah. And we obviously want to ensure we're giving the best candidate experience we can from the moment you apply all the way through to hopefully when you get the job too. So it's really exciting to see some of the initiatives we've put in this year, like, using talking presentations and reach outs, and we're more interaction with the platform, and our challenge templates built on there too. So I think our process is looking pretty slick at the moment to be able to deal with that capacity as well. Now, at the core of Canva and what our belief is, which is be a force for good, what does that mean to you?
And sort of talking about the values there, obviously being a force for good is a really important one for us as a business. And there's multiple examples of Canva, how we actually really embrace that being a force for good. Like Canva doesn't charge not-for-profits to use Canva. It's also completely free for education facilities and people in education using it for that. There in itself sort of gives you a good indication of we don't want to take money from not-for-profits and charities. And like, it's not the whole purpose of why Canva was built is to empower people. And, we want to give our product to those that need it and can have a really positive impact with it. And I think being a force for good also looks at, Canva's charitable donations. Mel and Cliff recently coming out and saying they're giving 30% of their equity to not-for-profits and charities, which essentially means, when we're doing our day-to-day and trying to increase the value of Canva, that's all then going to not-for-profits and charities, which is a really nice thing to think about. Also, Canva partners really closely with Oz Harvest, and we're fortunate enough to have breakfast and lunch cooked for us in the offices. But there's a huge amount of stuff around that we sort of give to Oz Harvest on the side, and really make sure that we're giving back in terms of wherever we can, we try and make a positive impact. And also we're doing a lot of stuff with Wayside Chapel and a huge amount of charities in the local Sydney area and globally, but to really make sure that, we are being a force for good, and we're living that brand value. What do you reckon your sort of main things, Emma, are about being a force for good?
I love that. I was just sitting there smiling, listening to all of that. And I think it just makes you feel so proud working at Canva. It's just like the fact that we are, growing the company by X amount, and we're releasing new features on the product, but we're still ensuring that we are doing the best that we can for the community. And, going back to Mel's 2-step plan, number 1, being the most valuable company in the world, and number 2, doing the most good we can. And we definitely live and breathe that in our everyday. And, I saw yesterday someone posted in the doggies channel that a part of their Force for Good leave, they went and volunteered at a greyhound shelter and helped the greyhounds and bathed them, took them for walks, played with them, and all those doggies are up for adoption, and they got to do that as a part of their volunteering leave. And I was like, oh my goodness, what a great idea. So I'm definitely going to sign up for that. But just hearing those stories of I love the people at Canva. I think everyone is a really good human, going back to our values, and we all live and breathe ensuring that we're being a force for good in any way we can. And it's just, like I said, it just makes you feel really proud to work at it.
I think also when we talk about the 2-step plan, becoming the most valuable company in the world, I think in terms of value, it's really important that, that's not just attached to revenue. That's about impact and how Canva can, change the world, and how we can do all these amazing things. And we get daily stories of users sending in all these amazing things that they've done using Canva, whether it's like launching a restaurant in South America or launching a small business in South Africa using Canva, and being able to use it for free and do all that groundwork around their branding, and using that to help launch a business and then get a following and gradually build by using Canva. Or there was a really nice story quite recently about someone who found a lost relative using Canva and building templates to find people that they'd lost touch with, and that sort of got circulated really heavily. It was all built on Canva, and then they ended up finding them. There's all these things that really nice behind the scenes stories that really sort of encapsulate being a force for good for me. And also I think we don't really like to use it too much as PR and publicity. It's just something that's expected and that we do because it's important to us.
Totally agree with that. Just on the community stories, I loved in our season opening the other day, the gentleman who was, I think he was 99, who published a children's book, but was creating a photo book for his family. He couldn't see them due to COVID, putting his life story together. And I was just in tears. I was like, that's just so beautiful that we have a platform that can do that, and he can connect with his family and, reminisce on his memory. So I love those stories. Now, talk to us about Canva's culture. How do you find the culture of Canva, and are you a part of any Canva clubs?
Yeah, so the culture is amazing. A really good indication of our culture is I always, drop a note to anyone that I've hired in the first week, see how they're getting on, and then drop them a note a few weeks later or a couple of months later and just see how they're getting on. And the constant feedback is how much they're enjoying the work, but also how nice everyone is and how welcoming and friendly people are. The amount of times you've been making a coffee at Canva and someone's just come up, introduce themselves, ask what team you work in, and there's that real nice community feel of everyone's working together, being on the same page, but wants to be kind to each other and make new friends and stuff, which I think is an awesome thing about our culture. In terms of the clubs, that's another big thing. It's a really nice thing that Canva does in terms of you can join clubs in areas that you're passionate about. So, the majority of clubs that I am a member of are either alcohol related or food related, which probably says a lot about me.
Great.
There's wine club, there's beer club, there's whiskey club, and there's gin club, to name a few. But then also food wise, there's a burger club, a ramen club, a jerky club. There's also a couple of abstract clubs knocking around as well. There's a farming club, which I haven't looked into myself, but I might after this. There's a few people sending slacks while sat on a tractor. I'm in. and also woodworking club as well. So
Cool.
lots of people who are passionate about woodworking. So I think, the clubs are obviously really good at finding people who are passionate about what you're passionate about, but also to learn something new. Like, I might take up woodworking. See how we go.
Why not? Exactly.
Yeah.
Learn about it. I think you forgot the important beverage, which is Water Club.
Yeah,
I'm a part of. We
Yeah.
can't discount Water Club. We like to basically just test out different types of waters, bottled waters, and talk about water.
You've got a lot of spare time when you're doing reviews on waters. Is my thoughts on that. But,
yes, an outside of work hobby for sure. My favorite thing that happened this year with the clubs was when Wine Club did a crossover with Pasta Club, and we did a collab and came together, and then we made pasta and drank wine at the same time, all virtually from our homes. Yeah. And that was amazing.
And just sort of touching upon it, what is your favorite water? That
is a really good question. I'm on to Capri water at the moment. I got sent some. I was like a still water person for years. I was not into sparkling water. Yeah. And 2020, don't know why, but that was the year of sparkling water for me, and it's really come through. So I'm on the sparkling water trend at the moment. So I'm really enjoying those. And we got some tasters the other day. I think we got 4 or 5 bottles, got to try different ones. And I've noticed that they're now stocked, the different flavors are now stocked in the fridge in the office. So I tried a ginger beer flavored sparkling water the other day, and I'm not normally a ginger beer person, and that was amazing. So I think as a brand, that's what I'm enjoying mostly at the moment.
Sorry, I didn't realize it was going to be that longer answer. I don't know.
I just went on a tangent about water.
That interested in it's good. It's good to hear the reasoning behind it.
Reasoning behind water. Do we know what the most popular club is at Canva?
Yeah, so it's the Investing Club.
Investing Club.
Followed by the Wine Club.
Well, that makes sense.
Like there's lots of investing wine connoisseurs at Canva.
Our favorite hobbies at Canva. Yeah, we do love a club, and I think there's more and more popping up daily, but glad that we're getting the most out of the clubs. Sounds like we're both members of a few. Now, just going back to sort of your journey and your role, what's one piece of advice you would love to give someone who wants to join Canva?
I'll double that, and I'll give you 2 pieces of advice. So the first piece of advice I would be giving is to keep going. Like, it's, as I mentioned earlier, 280,000 people have applied for a role at Canva this year. So there's a huge amount of people that want to work at Canva and, are actively reaching out to us. And it's really competitive. So I didn't get the role at Canva the first time I interviewed, and for full transparency, and knew it was somewhere that I wanted to work. So kept in contact, reached out again, just sort of kept, front of mind for these people, and then sort of managed to land it on my second go. So I think, keep going, but also the other part of the advice would be do something to stand out. And I think, again, with the application numbers that we get, there was, for our grads program recently, we asked people to do a 1-pager on Canva about either telling us about themselves and why they want to work at Canva, or doing a 1-pager on their favorite value of Canva's. So it was force for good, being a good human, and why. And the response level was amazing, and what people were putting together was incredible. But one person went out and shot a video and pulled this video together and edited it all on Canva and submitted it. And it was on 1 page. So within the brief, but just went above and beyond, and we ended up hiring her. And I think, it's how do you really stand out from the crowd on your application?
Totally agree with that. I've been going through the same thing. I've just hired my very first product marketing grads as well, and I was blown away by some of the applications that came through. Some people created their own websites and videos and presentations, and some of the CVs were so cool that they were made on Canva. So I think that's my big piece of advice as well. Like, think of a way that you can stand out. Because I mean, like Jack said, there's 280,000 people that are applying for Canva. So we always like to see something that, is a little quirky or outside of the box, and really get to see you as a person. We love personality 100%. In the hiring process. The last question I have for you, Jack, what do you think the future of the talent acquisition industry will look like?
The robots are coming and they're going to take over our jobs.
We've been told that for a while.
I think, that's been circulating around recruitment for a while. I think talent brand for me is the standout, thing that's going to really have an impact on how people hire in the future. Being able to market yourself really well as a business that people want to work at, a lot of the time when we're speaking with candidates, they're in multiple processes at different companies, they're getting to offer stage, it's how do you differentiate yourself from your competitors, and how do you become that, place. How Canva's done amazingly well in terms of being that place that people really want to work at, and really pushing that forward in terms of getting that in front of the right people as well is really important. So the targeting of the talent brand, not just, putting it out into the ether and hoping it works. And also I think building out talent's reputation internally is really important. So talent having a seat at the table, not being an afterthought when they get to the end of, road mapping a big piece of work and then thinking, oh, actually, how many people do we need? We need them to start tomorrow. Is being in that conversation at the start and being able to workforce plan as well as hire effectively.
Yeah, love that. I totally agree on the talent brand side. I think I'm obsessed with talent brand. I love it. And I think it's so important. It's not just about, a candidate turning up for a job anymore and just expecting that it will happen. Like that, we have to sell our business to candidates just as much as, they need to tell us who they are too. It's a two-way street in that sense. And I think it's so important that you can preach to the choir about, your brand and who you are, but you also need to make sure that you replicate that internally too, and ensuring that, what you put out to market is happening. And I think that is going to be a lot of investment from companies in the next couple of years around building out that talent brand, and also just valuing talent acquisition. I feel like, years ago it was sort of seen as transactional, or maybe just an extension of, a HR team. Like there's so much resource, time, and value going into building out internal talent acquisition teams now within companies. And like you said, TA having a seat at the table and really valuing what we do. And that's really, really exciting to have seen that, started to come to life in the last couple of years. And I can only imagine that's going to take off more so in the future for sure. That was our last question. So that is perfect timing. So we will hand it over to our lovely attendees if they have any questions for us.
I saw Monica just wrote in the chat, love the vulnerability and great advice. So I think that sums up today very well. Thank you, guys.
There's a couple of questions I can see in here. How does Canva process that many applications? We've got a really strong ATS, so applicant tracking system, where you can work at scale and also go sort of really niche when you need to. So obviously it takes a lot of time for us to go through that many applications, but we do look at every application. So it's how do we, I guess, going into the application screening, we need to know exactly what we're looking for. And then obviously working with our applicant tracking system to make sure that things are really effective in terms of, us being able to get back to people and being able to do that side of it. Would you agree, Em?
Definitely. I think you've summarized that well there, Jack. Probably don't need to add anything else there. I just saw a couple of questions come through from Joshua, who I know, who's been interviewing for our product marketing grad program. Hey, Joshua. So a good question here. What does working at Canva look like in the hybrid age? And has the nature of carrying things out changed since the pandemic? So really good question. We have what we call a hybrid model now at Canva. So that means we are only required to come into the office 8 times a year. And then other than that, it's up to you how frequently you would like to come in and what works best for you and your team. So this has enabled us to hire people in many parts of Australia, or give people the flexibility if they want to live, just outside of Sydney. It's always, a case-by-case situation, and we go through an approval process, but it's meant that we've been able to build hubs in Melbourne, for example. We have a hub in Adelaide, got a few people in Brisbane, in Newcastle. So it's really set us up to hire talent, not based on where they are, but them as a person, and give people the flexibility to live where they want to as well. And I think that has really helped our growth in the last 12 months, and it seems to be working pretty well. Any thoughts on that comment, Jack?
I think Canva's been doing it for years though, in terms of, pretty flexible around working from home. And I feel, again, what does TA look like in the future? I think you need to be really, really open to the new ways of working, and the fact that people may, have changed their lifestyle, and you don't want that to be an inhabiting factor. And when you're hiring, if someone's moved to the Gold Coast, for instance, like a lot of people that we've spoken with recently have decided that Brisbane's now the place to be. So how do we facilitate that? How do we make sure that, we can hire there, but also how do we keep them engaged if we do hire them? And how do you make sure that they still feel a part of the team. And all of our events now are hybrid focused. So even if they're in person, there's also, Zooms and stuff that go around that as well.
I just saw a question in the chat from Mike. What's the biggest red flag for recruiters when applying for Canva? I don't think there is red flags. This is hands down the best role I've ever had in my career. I think my biggest advice would just be ensuring that, like Jack has mentioned before, our pace and our growth, there is a lot of growth to happen. So you need to be super adaptable, resilient, and love operating in the gray area while we build. The most exciting thing about our roles is there's so much building that we do while we build out new teams, move into different parts of the world and so on. So I think that if that's something that you love doing, then this is definitely the role for you.
Yeah, no, 100%, I agree. But also a really good question from Josh around what does diversity and inclusion look like in practice for you all? I think that's a massive focus for us as a business, but also as a recruitment team, is really, the way I talk about visual content actually really relates to us as a business. So we've got close to 70 million active users every month. Those people are spread across the world, and we have a really diverse user base. So therefore our content has to be really diverse in terms of our designs. They need to be, focused not just on people in Sydney, because we're based in Sydney. It's what's going to be relevant to our users in South America against what's relevant in Europe. So, our content needs to be as diverse as our users, but also our team needs to be as diverse as our users as well. Like, we want to be a really inclusive environment where people, no matter where you're from, your background, your gender, anything about that shouldn't be relevant at all to your application or your life at Canva. And it's all about, how do we foster inclusivity, but also make people, again, when they come on board, feel welcome to express themselves. And I feel it's a very supportive environment in that. We try and replicate that in our recruitment process as well.
Just saw another question. Do you conduct all interviews online? We generally have been, especially for the first round interviews, as we've all been dipping in and out of COVID lockdowns. We've moved all of our hiring completely on Zoom. And that goes on our flexibility in ensuring that we can meet candidates all around the globe, and we don't require you to come in person. We might have sort of like a hybrid model of hiring in the future when, there's sort of more safety around going to the offices, around the globe. But for now, we are doing all of our interviews online. That's pretty much similar for you, Jack, I would say.
Yeah, it has been pretty much since I started. So for the past 10 months, everything's been online.
Yeah. I found that it's enabled us to meet more people as well, because people are home and they've got more flexibility around time. So I think it's like really improved our roles and how we connect with people. And I think it's been able to speed the process up as well, so they can meet, more people in the team when they're interviewing. Maybe we'll end on this last question. What are some of the best moments you've had working in TA at Canva? And we did share some highlights earlier, Jack, but what's probably like what's your favorite thing that you've had since you've done since you've joined Canva?
I think it would have to be the graduate hiring, to be honest. I think giving people the opportunity to come on board in our Launchpad scheme and learn and grow, and just the excitement levels of, the candidates we were working with and the designers being able to sit and have conversations with our creative leads and all these amazing, inspiring people at Canva. And then, getting through to that offer stage and realizing that they're going to be able to come in and learn from them and work with them. And the excitement levels, of offering candidates at this level is amazing, and it's really rewarding. So I feel like from a self-accomplishment and achievement, I think that for me has been, massive highlight.
Completely agree with that. I don't want to copy your answer, but I've also just recently hired 3 grads for our product marketing Launchpad program, and it's just been so rewarding. But I also think just the fact that we get to build teams and give people, sometimes, they tell you it's their dream role or they've been looking for, and being part of that and helping people find that, I think is so rewarding. And it's just been so amazing to see the amount of growth that we've done this year. I think we've hired 1,600 people, and the fact that we've been a part of that, makes you smile and remember why you love your job and you do what you do. So yeah, well, I think that is all the questions for Q&A. And thank you so much, Jack, for answering all of those questions. Really glad we got to hear your journey, and hopefully we've provided some insights into the world of TA and what it's like to work at Canva.
Sam, thanks so much for having me.
Well, I think that wraps up our show for today. And I would also just like to say a huge thank you to you both. It's been absolutely wonderful learning about your journey to Canva and your life here at the moment. So before we go, I just thought I would let everyone know that if you would like to attend our Meet the Makers live and get a chance to ask questions to our Canva staff, you can sign up to any of our live events via the Design School events page. Well, thank you everyone for attending today, and I hope you learned something. We look forward to seeing you at another Meet the Makers episode soon. Thank you everyone. Bye.